Good afternoon, my fellow classmates. How we all doing today? All right, perfect. Now, can I get a show of hands as to how many of us here have cars again? All right, awesome. So I'd like to offer you all a bit of information that might make your lives just a little bit less stressful by revealing to you all how to change the drum brakes on your vehicles. Now, in case you're unsure what that is, it's just a different type of brakes that tends to be on the back end of the car. All right? Now, since there's so many of us here who have cars and not a lot of money, learning to change the drum brakes on our vehicles can prove to be quite beneficial. Now, I have changed my drum brakes a couple of times, and I do fiddle around with my car when it needs such work. So I do feel confident enough in my skills with mechanics to convey this information to you all today. Now, there's going to be 3 points that we have to cover today: the tools we need to get the job done, how to dismantle and replace the drum brakes, and finally how to put it all back together so we can get back on the road in no time. Okay, so let's start with the tools we need. First, of course, we need to purchase the brakes. I mean, without the brakes, what's the point of doing it all, right? Second, we're also going to need to get a jack to lift up the vehicle. We're also going to need, thirdly, a cross wrench to take off the lug nuts. And fourth and finally, we're going to need a pair of needle nose pliers. Okay? Now that we have the tools, let's get started. So, first things first, let's get the jack that we mentioned. So we're going to be sliding it under the vehicle, but make sure that it's in a very secure place, because you don't want to put it somewhere weak where you might end up breaking the gas tank or something like that. You have to make sure it's somewhere secure where you can lift the car safely. You might also want to add some jack stands for extra security. Only recommended, not necessary. Okay, now when you put the jack under the car, you have to lift it up just a little bit, just a little. You want to loosen up the lug nuts with the cross wrench that we mentioned. Once the lug nuts are loosened, then we're able to lift the car completely and completely remove the lug nuts. And once the lug nuts are off, we're able to slide out the tire and roll it onto the side. Okay, and once the tire is out of the way, we see a circular apparatus, not too sure what it is maybe. Now that's just the drum of the drum brakes, hence the name, drum brakes. You can easily slide that off, but if it's not so easy, doesn't want to come off, you can just pry it out with maybe a crowbar or something of the sort. And when you take it off, you might be a little confused as to some springs and clips you see. It's a lot more simple than it seems. You get the needle nose pliers that we mentioned earlier. You loosen up the springs, take them off, and also the clips. You have to take them both off so that way you can dismantle the drum brake system. Now you get all the springs and clips out of the way, and then you notice that the brake pads should be fairly loose. From there you can easily pull out the the brake pad, and get it off to the side, old worn out brake pads. And from there we put in the new brake pad where the old one was. Now that we talked about how to dismantle and replace the drum brakes, or the the brake pads, now we're going to talk about how to put it all back together again so we can get back on the road. Now that we have the brake pad in place, we put all the springs and clips back in the appropriate positions so that way we can have everything back where it should be. Now when the springs and clips are all where they should be, we have to put the new drum back where the old one was to cover it all back up. And when you do that, you can easily slide the tire back in place and securely fasten the lug nuts. Now once all of that is in position, from there we're able to lower the car to its original height, leave it in its normal position. And from there, I would recommend taking it on a test drive to make sure everything's running how it should be. Okay? Now today we have learned how to change the drum brakes. We covered 3 main points. One of them was the tools we needed to get the job done. The second was how to dismantle and replace the brakes. Third and finally, we went over how to put it all back together to get back on the road. Now, there's no need to worry about paying some mechanic absurd amounts of money to get the brakes changed when now you know how to do it yourself inexpensively and easily.